Welcome to Inside Out Online. This is the third video for the Capo. In the first video we memorized some notes. Those were G, A, B, C, D, and E. And we talk about how basically the Capo lifts the note that you're on. I'm down here and I'm going dun, 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 dun. I'm like, I don't want to sing down there. Wait, simply the Capo lifts that. I'm just gonna pick a random place here. Da da dun, dun, da da da. Now I'm in a comfortable place. So it simply lifts whatever you were doing there. Now everything has lifted up. Now you can use the Capo as quite the tool for what we call transposing. That is transposing. When we lift something from where it was to something else, it's called transposing. Real quick, the most common place and position that we put the Capo might be the 2nd fret. Some people don't like to play the open A position. They want to play these shapes, particularly, most commonly. They want to play this G and this C add 9 shape, and maybe this E minor shape, and maybe a D sus or a D. They want to play these familiar, nice sounding shapes, and they don't get that sound by playing these kind of cowboy open sounding chords. So that gets them in the key of A without actually having to play these open A chords. We like to play this G chord and the C add 9, right? I'll bet you do too. But let's keep diving into the theory and the nuts and bolts of how this works. There's some things I want to point out. First of all, there's 5 main open position chords and even keys that we play. Those are the key of A, the key of C, the key of D, the key of E, and the key of G. I want to look at those 5 chords real quick and show you how you can use those chords to move you up the neck on the Capo. So these might seem like simple concepts. If you really put them to memory and put them to use, it can be a powerful tool. Let's look at these open position chords. The G chord. Where is G's bass note? It's here, right? On the top string. So wherever that chord goes, that's what that chord is. So let's say I'm way up here. If I know what note that is, I can put my G chord there and capo accordingly. We've memorized a couple notes, G, A, B. Think of G as a top string chord, where again, its bass note is on top. This is a G note, this is a G chord. So wherever else I put it and capo accordingly, I get that note, whatever that note is. We memorized G, A, B. If I put a G chord there, I get a B chord. Now I have to capo accordingly. I don't put the capo there because that'll bring my G up here. I want my G to land on that note because down here, this was a G note, this was a G chord. So accordingly, if I capo here, I get a B note and a B chord. B. Ugh. Who plays B? Well, you might need to, first of all, and second of all, it might just be the right spot for your voice. And now it doesn't really matter anymore. You're not thinking B when you strum it. You can think G. So what comes out is B, but you get to play the familiar shape of G. So that's the G chord. Again, it's a top string chord. Top string meaning this is the bass note for it. Let's look at some other ones. Let's look at the E chord. The E chord, all right? So, don't let this be tricky. Where's E's bass note? E's bass note is this low E string. So this shape's bass note is back here. Think of it like it's on this fret. Think of it like someone's clamping on here all the time or holding that note for you. You don't have to hold this note because the nut here does it for you. So this is a fun way. If you're good at the key of E, which I recommend definitely working on the key of E. I've got a lot of good videos on the key of E on the website or it's on the channel. Let's get this E shape to up to a G chord. Think of the alphabet. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Where did we say that G note was? If that's our bass note, we want to get that bass note to G. Well, that E note was here with that nut here, like a bar or like a capo. Well, accordingly, there's our G note. So I should be able to take what was here and move it up to here. Now, when I play this E shape, what's coming out? A G chord. We said that was a G note. You can even physically look at it, what it has in common with this G shape. These high two notes here are being played right now, open, down here. The low note that we were holding with our second finger is now being held and is open from our capo. So it already has things in common with it. Let's keep going with that E chord. We said this note was an A note up top, right? Well, if I put my capo there and I play my E shape using this as my bass note, doom, what's coming out now is an A. You play an open A without the capo right down here, and I'll play this one, and we'll hear that what's coming out are both A chords. Now I get this big bright one, right? So I'm way up here, and you get this dum dum dum. It's a kind of a lower version of it. All right, let's just keep going. We memorized that this is a B note. So if I put my capo there and I play an E shape there, I get a B chord. Crazy. What? Yeah, it's a B chord. So real quick, this is helpful in times that you need some random key like B flat. You're like, I don't play key of B flat. Well, this was B, down is B flat. Just real quick. If you're not ready for this, that's fine. I'm gonna move on from it real quick. This is now a B flat chord. You're playing a B flat because you know where B flat is. Play the right chord on it, you get a B flat chord. Let's move on. Let's go back open. Just quick review. This was a G note. So the chord that comes from that note is a G chord. It's a top string chord. The other top string chord is the E chord, which goes way back to the open string. Those are the two top string chords. Let's go to chords that start on the second string. There's two of them. One is C. That's the base of that note. That's a C note. What flows from that is a C chord. And the other second string chord is an A. A uses the open string. This is the base of that chord, the open A string. The chord that comes from that is the A chord. That's the A note. So let's go back to C. We've got some memorized notes here. We've got C, D, and E. Well, let's say I want to play E chord, but I want to play a key of C shapes. Well, I know that this is an E note. I can slide that note to the E note, capo accordingly, and now I'm no longer playing a C chord. I'm playing an E chord. If you played a low E right now, we'd be playing the same chord. I'm getting a brighter chord version of that, but they're still both E chords. E major, C major, shape, C major shape, up here yields an E major chord. Crazy, huh? So let's go to capo 2 and play a C shape. We went over this in video 2, but can you tell me what chord this is? We've lifted a C chord up one step. Simple as that. C has gone up one step. A, B, C, D. It's a D chord. This is now a D chord. So the capo, if you'll learn to kind of see what's happening, you'll see connections. Again, I mentioned this on video 2. Back here is a D shape where you put your D chord. There's a D shape back there. And that keeps going. And those connections can be made for all these chords. Let's look at the A. We haven't done the A. All right, let's look at the A chord. A, we said the bass note is back here on the second string, open. So we've memorized this is a C note, this is a D note, this is an E note. If the bass note for A is the open string along that open fret, then what if I put it on this third fret and played an A shape? What do we get? What do we get? This is not an A anymore. We're pushing in on that third fret, same place that our C chord lands. What's coming out is a C chord. If you played an open C and I played this third capo A shape, we will be playing the same chord. Mine is slightly lifted. I have a high G note right there. It'd be kind of like playing an open C with a capo, with a pinky down on that high G note. Kind of listen to that. Same chord. Let's keep going. Third fret, fifth fret, A shape. So A's bass note is landing on that second string. What did we say that note was? G, A, B, C, D. It's a D note, D chord. Keep going. What? Can we do that? Yeah. We've got that 7th fret pressed in, and our bass note is on the 7th fret, second string. We've memorized that note. It's an E note. The chord that comes from it in this A shape is an E chord. So knowing where your bass notes are and kind of what chord comes from there is important. Let's go over those 4 real quick. G. G comes from the 3rd fret top string. So wherever that note lands, it's yielding that chord, whatever fret that is, whatever note that is on the fretboard. E chord comes from the open string. So as the E lifts, the bass note comes behind it. So let's say I need an A chord. Here's an A note, capo there, play the E shape, we get an A chord. All right, going to the C again. I call a C a second string chord because the bass note is on the 3rd fret here. So wherever that lands is the chord that it is, and you have to capo accordingly. A's is open. All right, that's 4 chords. There's 5 total. What's the missing one? D chord. D is a 3rd string chord. So D gets a little confusing. That's not as easy to remember, especially in the beginning, because a lot of people, we're not memorizing that string. But if we remember that D lifts, well, what's D lifted? A, B, C, D, E. If I capo 2, I play a D shape, I get an E chord. Definitely watch the videos about what I call the 2 down, 2 over rule. That will be helpful for this. And watch the video on the 6 notes that are important to memorize, because I'm going to just dive in more and more, kind of talk about it more, and it can be very helpful for you as we try to understand up the neck